welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my second half of the year most anticipated releases. So it is June now. It feels wild that it is already time to do anticipated releases for the second half of the year, but here we are. So I have my laptop here and I'm going to tell you about some of the things that I am looking forward to in the second half of the year. I think all of these, or maybe all except one, are from authors that I already know and like, so I'm excited to see things that are either continuations of series or beginnings of new series or things like that. For some reason, most of my anticipated releases that were from like either debut or new to me authors were in the first half of the year, but second half of the year is all about authors that I already know, but still very excited for them. So let's just get started. So starting out in July, of course, you know, release dates may change. For this, I'm just going to be kind of generally saying the month that at the moment I think they are going to be released in, but you know, release dates are always like changing and stuff, but as of now, this is the month they'll be published in. And also, I guess this is my little like moment of disclaimers. These are all books that I am interested in, not necessarily all books that I'm like definitely going to buy or read. They're things that I am very likely to, but I'm gonna like be keeping an eye on to see if I want to read them. But these are just like the things that I'm excited about that are coming out in July through December. Okay, disclaimers have been completed. Let's get started with A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Monk and Robot series. So this says, after touring the rural areas of Panga, Sibling Dex, a tea monk of some renown, and Mosscap, a robot sent on a quest to determine what humanity really needs, turn their attention to the villages and cities of the little moon they call home. They hope to find the answers they seek while making new friends, learning new concepts, and experiencing the entropic nature of the universe. So last year I read the first book in this series, which was Prayer for the Wild Built, and I really enjoyed it. It is very like optimistic, soft sci-fi, and yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, so I want to continue on with the series, read the second book when it comes out. All right, next up, we were already on to August. So this is actually a book that I think I mentioned in my first half of the year releases, but has been pushed back to August now, which is Moon Dark Smile by Tessa Gratton. So this is the second book, or it's more like a companion sequel to Nightshine, which is one of her YA fantasy series. So in this, it says, ever since she was a girl, Raeliel Darksmile's best friend has been the great demon that lives in the palace. As the daughter of the emperor, Raeliel appears cold and distant to those around her, but what no one understands is that she and the great demon Moon have a close and unbreakable bond and are together at all times. Moon is bound to the emperor and his two consorts, Raeliel's parents, but when Raeliel comes of age, she will be bound to Moon as well, constrained to life in the palace for the rest of her days. Raeliel is desperate to see the empire, and she feels a deep kinship with Moon, who longs to break free of its bonds. When the time finally arrives for Raeliel's coming-of-age journey, she discovers a dangerous way to take Moon with her, even as she hides this truth from her traveling companion, the beautiful demon-kissed bodyguard, Ossian Redpop. But Ossian is hiding secrets of his own, and when a plot surfaces that threatens the Empire, Raeliel will have to decide who she can trust and what she'll sacrifice for the power to protect all she loves. So I read Nightshine a couple years ago when it came out and really enjoyed it. I just love Tessa Gratton in general, one of my favorite authors. So I'm excited to see an addition to this series. I also really like this cover. They did a redesign of the cover for the first book, which I am so glad that they did, because the original cover was terrible. So I'm really liking the new redesigns for the covers that they're doing. Also in August, we have The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. So this is the second book to, oh god, what was the first one called? The Jasmine Throne, which I read, I think earlier this year? I don't remember when I read that. But The Oleander Sword is the second book in that series, and I'm very interested to see where this goes. I so far have not been loving this series as much as the her other series that is like Empire of Sand, but I do like Tasha Suri's writing and her worlds, so I'm very curious to see where the series continues on. And I think these covers are really, I like how like monochromatic and saturated the covers for these are, so I'm excited for this one. All right, then we have, I think this is the one book that is from an author that I haven't read from before, which is The First Binding by R.R. Verdi. And it says, I buried the village of Ampur under a mountain of ice and snow. Then I killed their god. I've stolen old magics and been cursed for it. I started a war with those that walked before mankind and lost the princess I loved and wanted to save. I've called lightning and bound fire. I am legend and I am a monster. My name is Ari, and this is the story of how I let loose the first evil. So that just sounds cool. I don't know much else about it, but I just think that sounds really interesting, and I really like this color. I like the color scheme of, or this cover. I like the color scheme of this cover a lot. All right. Next up, we are into September, which the first book I have here is The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas, who wrote Cemetery Boys, which I really enjoyed. So I really loved Cemetery Boys when I read it, which is more like paranormal contemporary fantasy. I DNF'd another book from them, which was a Peter Pan retelling last year. However, that was probably a me thing just because I don't really like Peter Pan retelling, so I'm not going to hold that against the author that I DNF'd a book. So I'm excited to see something new coming from this author that is not a Peter Pan retelling, just because that's not the thing that I tend to enjoy. But this sounds really interesting, and it's kind of pitched as Percy Jackson meets the Hunger Games, which like I've enjoyed both of those. There's a whole description to it, but I don't really want to know too much else about it. I kind of want to just like go into it without too much expectation and enjoy it. But there's also a great cover. So many books are having such good covers. I'm very excited for this. Okay, then also in September, we have The Genesis of Misery, which I'm so excited for. This is from Neon Yang. So this is a sci-fi that, so Neon Yang, last year I read their Tensorate series, which is like silk punk fantasy, and I loved it. It was such an interesting series. I have a whole review for the series. If you want to see that, I will link it below. But I really want to read more from this author, so I'm excited that they're coming out with another book. I don't tend to read a lot of sci-fi, but because I've loved other books from this author, I'm very optimistic about this sci-fi. But it says, it describes it as a it is full of high-tech space battles and political machinations, starring a queer and diverse array of pilots, princesses, and prophetic heirs. Which, again, this is another one that I don't really want to know too much about, but it just does sound really interesting. Like, right at the end here it says, still waiting to be convinced of her own divinity and secretly training with a crew of outlaws and outcasts, Misery grows close to a rebel royal, Lady Alodia Lightning, who may know something of saints and prophecy herself. The voice that guides Misery grows bolder by the day, and it seems the madness is catching. That just sounds so good. I'm very excited about this one. This is maybe one of my most anticipated from this list. So next up, we are into October now, but this is Greywarren, I never quite know how to say this, by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the third and final book in the Dreamer trilogy, which is the spin-off trilogy from the Raven Cycle. Wow, my brain just like blanked for a second there. But it's a spin-off from the Raven Cycle that is specifically following the Lynch brothers after the events of the Raven Cycle. And this series I have not loved as much as the Raven Cycle, but honestly, there's very little that really like lives up to the Raven Cycle for me. It's one of my favorite series of all time. But I do still, of course, like reading Maggie Stiefvater's books. She is one of my favorite authors, and get to, you know, follow some of these characters. We get glimpses of Adam, who is one of my favorite characters, or he is my favorite character probably in the Raven Cycle. So we get little glimpses of him, and I just like live for those. So yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into this because it's the third book in the series, but very much looking forward to it. Then we have the River of Silver, Tales from the Daevabad trilogy, which I think that the audiobook for this is already available on what's it called? Audible, but like the physical book isn't coming out until the fall. I think the physical book comes out in October. So that's why it's on this anticipated releases. I'm hoping to listen to the audiobook before then, because I have recently finished the Daevabad trilogy and I loved it. I'm so excited to read more in that world. I am not usually really a fan of short stories, but because I have enjoyed this world so much, I'm very excited to just like have more in this world with these characters, learn more about the world and all of that. So I'm going to be reading it, although I probably will be listening to the audiobook because I think I tend to enjoy short stories more as audiobooks. All right, and also just with this one, as with this entire series, beautiful cover design. Like, I think both the US and UK editions of this whole series have just such incredibly beautiful covers. They really like did a great job on this series. All right, next up, this one is in November, Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse. Rebecca Roanhorse, I just have enjoyed so many books from her at this point. Or yeah, I really like her Trail of Lightning. I don't remember what the series name is called, but I've enjoyed that one, which is more like post-apocalyptic monster hunting urban fantasy, I guess. But I also earlier this year read Black Sun and really loved it, and I'm looking forward to reading Fevered Star. So this looks like it's a standalone. It doesn't look like it's part of another series. I think that it's about like sisters and divinity. I'll just read like a little piece of the description where it says, when Mariel is accused of murdering a virtue, the powerful order of the archangels that rule Gotia, Celeste must defend her sister in the secretive courts of the virtue. Celeste, aided by her ex-lover Abraxas, who was once one of the rebels' great generals, sets out to prove Mariel innocent. But powerful forces among the virtues and the elect mining barons don't want Celeste prying into their business, and Mariel has secrets of her own. As Celeste is drawn deeper into the dark side of Gotia, she unravels a layer of lies and manipulation that may doom Mariel and puts her own immortal soul at risk. In this dark fantasy noir, the best-selling mastermind Rebecca Roanhorse. I don't know if I'm super into like the noir vibe, but I am very into anything that Rebecca Roanhorse publishes, so I'm excited to read this. So those are all the books that I have on my list of most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I'm really looking forward to all of them, but I would love to know if any of these are also on your anticipated releases list for the second half, or if there are any that are coming out in July through December that I didn't mention that you are really excited about, or anything you think I would be excited about. I would love to know. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!